The forest was eerily quiet that morning, the kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. Somewhere deep in the Appalachian wilderness, a group of miners trudged through damp underbrush, their boots sinking into mud as they followed an old map scrawled on yellowed paper. They weren't looking for gold or coal this time, just answers. 8 years ago, 2 female DEA agents vanished without a trace while investigating a dangerous drug trafficking ring operating out of these remote mountains. Their disappearance became one of the most baffling mysteries in law enforcement history. No bodies were ever found. No evidence surfaced to explain what happened. And then, just last week, something changed. The miners stumbled upon something inside a Kaiva discovery so shocking it sent chills down their spines and reignited questions about what really happened all those years ago. The story begins with agents Laura Hayes and Maria Alvarez, both seasoned investigators known for their tenacity and sharp instincts. Laura, a single mother with piercing blue eyes and a no-nonsense attitude, had spent over a decade climbing the ranks at the DEA. Her partner, Maria, brought a fiery determination and street smarts honed from growing up in a tough neighborhood. Together, they made an unstoppable team, tackling some of the toughest cases in the agency's history. But nothing could have prepared them for the assignment that would ultimately lead them here to the edge of nowhere, chasing shadows in a place where even sunlight seemed afraid to linger. It was supposed to be routine reconnaissance work, tracking down leads tied to a notorious cartel rumored to smuggle drugs through hidden mountain trails. Instead, it turned into a nightmare that left families shattered and colleagues searching for closure. When news broke that the agents had gone missing, panic rippled through the DEA offices in Washington, D.C. Search teams combed the dense forests for weeks. Helicopters buzzed overhead, and canine units sniffed every inch of terrain within miles of their last known location. Yet, despite the exhaustive efforts, there was no sign of Laura or Maria. Not a scrap of clothing, not a piece of equipment, nothing. Over time, theories swirled like wildfire. Some believed they'd been ambushed by cartel members. Others whispered about rogue elements within the agency itself. As months stretched into years, hope faded, but the mystery only grew darker. Families held vigils, friends shared memories, and fellow agents vowed never to forget. Still, the truth remained buried somewhere in the vast expanse of wilderness, waiting to be uncovered. Fast forward 8 years, and the world had moved on, or at least tried to. For the miners who ventured into these woods daily, though, the legend of the missing agents lingered like a ghost story told around campfires. That's why, when they spotted strange markings near the entrance of a secluded cave, curiosity got the better of them. At first glance, the symbols looked ancient, carved into the rock face with crude tools. But as they ventured deeper into the cavern, flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness, they realized they weren't alone. Something or someone had been here before them. Piles of discarded supplies lay scattered across the ground, tattered backpacks, rusted canteens, and fragments of fabric that might once have belonged to uniforms. Then came the moment that stopped them cold, a glint of metal, half buried in the dirt. When they dug it out, their hands trembled. It was a badge. A D badge. Word spread quickly among the mining crew, and soon photos of the discovery were circulating online, sparking renewed interest in the long-forgotten case. Journalists scrambled to piece together timelines. Police reopened files, gathering dust in storage rooms, and family members of the missing agents demanded answers. What exactly had the miners found? Was it proof that Laura and Maria had survived longer than anyone thought? Or was it evidence of something far more sinister? One thing was certain, the badge wasn't the only artifact left behind. Among the debris were notebooks filled with cryptic notes, maps marked with unfamiliar routes, and photographs showing faces that didn't match any public records. Whoever had been using this cave wasn't just hiding, they were planning something. As details emerged, speculation ran rampant. Some suggested the agents had stumbled onto a secret operation far beyond their original mission, perhaps uncovering ties between local criminals and international syndicates. Others believed they'd been betrayed by someone close to them, lured into a trap they couldn't escape. Whatever the truth, one fact stood out. The cave wasn't just a hideout, it was a labyrinth. Twisting tunnels branched off in every direction, some leading to dead ends, others opening into chambers large enough to hold entire campsites. In one particularly ominous section, the walls bore fresh scratches, as if someone had clawed at the stone in desperation. And then there was the smell, an acrid, metallic scent that clung to the air, making it hard to breathe. It was clear that whatever had taken place here, it hadn't ended well. For the people closest to Laura and Maria, the discovery reopened wounds that had barely begun to heal. Laura's teenage son, now grown, spoke publicly for the first time since his mother's disappearance, pleading for anyone with information to come forward. "She wouldn't give up on me," he said, his voice cracking with emotion, "and I won't give up on her." Meanwhile, Maria's sister described how she'd kept her siblings' memory alive by volunteering with organizations supporting families of missing persons. "We need answers," she insisted, tears streaming down her face. "Not just for us, but for everyone who's ever lost someone and been left in the dark." Back at the cave, forensic teams worked tirelessly to document every inch of the site, hoping to find clues that might finally solve the mystery. But as they delved deeper, they began to notice something unsettling. The layout of the cave suggested it had been modified, walls reinforced, passages widened, and ventilation systems installed. Someone had turned this natural formation into a fortress, and yet, despite the obvious effort put into fortifying the space, there was no sign of recent activity. It was as if whoever had been here had packed up and disappeared overnight. The question haunted investigators: where did they go and why? Just when it seemed like the trail might run cold again, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A retired miner, too frail to join the search himself, recalled hearing rumors decades earlier about a network of underground tunnels connecting various caves throughout the region. According to him, these passages had been used during Prohibition to smuggle alcohol, and later, drugs. Could Laura and Maria have uncovered this hidden highway and paid the ultimate price for it? If true, it meant the search area had expanded exponentially, stretching far beyond the initial site. More importantly, it raised the terrifying possibility that whoever controlled these tunnels was still out there, watching, waiting, as the investigation unfolded. Viewers around the globe tuned in, captivated by the unfolding drama. Social media lit up with theories, tributes, and calls for justice. Yet, amidst all the noise, one question loomed larger than the rest. What exactly had the miners found at the very heart of the cave? Initial reports hinted at something unimaginable, but authorities refused to release specifics, citing ongoing sensitivity and potential risks. All we know for sure is that the discovery has shaken even the most hardened investigators to their core. Now, as the sun sets over the Appalachian ridges, casting long shadows across the landscape, the world waits with bated breath. What lies ahead may change everything we thought we knew about the case, and about the brave women who risked everything to bring criminals to justice. But the answers, like the agents themselves, remain shrouded in darkness. Asterisk, the deeper the investigation went, the more tangled the web became. Laura Hayes and Maria Alvarez weren't just any agents, they were part of a specialized task force tasked with dismantling high-level drug operations that crossed state lines. Their assignment in the Appalachians had started as a tip-off from an anonymous source, claiming to have evidence of a major smuggling route hidden within the mountain ranges. At first glance, it seemed like a routine lead, but what they uncovered was anything but ordinary. As investigators dug into their final days, they discovered fragments of radio transmissions sent by the agents before contact was lost. In one chilling recording, Laura's voice crackled through static, saying, "We're on to something bigger than we thought. This isn't just about drugs." Then silence. Those words haunted everyone involved, fueling speculation about whom they might have stumbled upon. Maria's meticulous notes provided another layer of intrigue. She'd been keeping a detailed journal during their mission, documenting everything from suspicious vehicles spotted on isolated roads to interactions with locals who seemed unusually One entry stood out. Asterisk, they know we're here. Whoever they are, they're organized. Too organized. Her handwriting grew increasingly frantic as the entries progressed, culminating in a cryptic line scrawled at the bottom of a page. Asterisk, if something happens to us, follow the river. It leads to the truth. That phrase became a focal point for the renewed investigation. Teams combed the area near the cave system, searching for any waterways that matched her description. What they found instead only deepened the mystery: a series of underground streams branching off into uncharted territory, some disappearing entirely beneath layers of rock. Meanwhile, back in Washington, D.C., whispers circulated among DEA about why the case had been quietly shelved after months of fruitless searching. Officially, resources were redirected to other pressing matters, but unofficially, rumors hinted at interference from powerful figures unwilling to let the truth come to light. A former colleague of Laura and Maria came forward anonymously, claiming he'd overheard heated arguments between senior officials shortly before the search efforts were scaled back. It wasn't about finding them anymore, he said in a hushed tone during an off-the-record interview. It was about making sure certain questions never got asked. His statement sent shockwaves through the public consciousness, reigniting anger and distrust toward institutions meant to protect. As tensions mounted, new subplots began to emerge. Local residents, many of whom had lived in the shadow of these mountains for generations, shared stories passed down through families about strange happenings in the woods. Some spoke of ghostly figures seen wandering along old logging trails late at night. Others described hearing distant gunfire echoing through valleys where no hunters should be. Most intriguingly, a handful claimed to have encountered outsiders, men dressed in tactical gear, speaking in hushed tones while carrying equipment too advanced for typical poachers or smugglers. These accounts painted a picture of a region far more volatile than anyone realized, one where secrets festered beneath the surface like roots strangling the life out of the earth itself. For Laura's son, Ethan, the revelations hit close to home. Now 22 years old, he had spent much of his life grappling with unanswered questions about his mother's fate. Growing up without her had left scars, but discovering that her disappearance may have been tied to corruption within the very agency she served added a fresh layer of pain. Determined to uncover the truth, Ethan joined forces with Maria's sister, Rosa, forming an unlikely alliance driven by grief and determination. Together, they pored over every scrap of information available, piecing together fragments of the puzzle even seasoned investigators had overlooked. Their persistence paid off when they uncovered a name buried in old case files. Victor Kane, a shadowy figure linked to multiple criminal enterprises across the country, though officially listed as deceased. Recent sightings suggested otherwise. And his alleged ties to the Appalachian trafficking network made him a person of interest once again, while Ethan and Rosa chased leads above ground. Forensic teams continued their painstaking work inside the cave. The deeper they ventured, the more disturbing the discoveries became. Alongside abandoned supplies and personal belongings, they unearthed items that didn't belong to the agents: weapons caches, encrypted communication devices, and documents written in a language none of them recognized. One document bore a symbol eerily similar to those carved into the cave walls, an emblem associated with a paramilitary group known for its brutal tactics and ruthless efficiency. If true, it meant the agents hadn't simply vanished, they walked straight into the lair of something far more dangerous than anyone anticipated. Back outside, storm clouds gathered overhead, casting long shadows across the forest floor. The air grew heavy with anticipation, as if nature itself sensed the impending confrontation. Search parties reported feeling watched, describing an unnerving sensation of eyes boring into them from the tree line. Dogs refused to enter certain areas, whimpering and tugging against their handlers' grips. Even seasoned law enforcement officers admitted to feeling uneasy, their instincts screaming that they were being toyed with. Something or someone was playing a deadly game, luring them deeper into the wilderness while remaining just out of reach. And then came the breakthrough, or so it seemed. A drone equipped with thermal imaging detected heat signatures emanating from a section of the cave previously deemed inaccessible. Excited murmurs rippled through the team as plans were hastily drawn up to explore the area, but as they prepared to descend, a warning arrived via an anonymous email. Turn back. You don't want to know what's waiting for you. The message was unsigned, yet it carried an authority that chilled everyone to the bone. Who had sent it? And how did they know what the team was planning? More importantly, what exactly was waiting for them in the darkness below? Time was running out. Supplies dwindled, tempers flared, and the pressure mounted. Every decision felt like stepping onto thin ice, unsure whether it would hold or shatter beneath their weight. For Ethan and Rosa, the stakes couldn't have been higher. They weren't just fighting for answers, they were fighting for justice, for closure, for the chance to reclaim pieces of themselves stolen by uncertainty. Yet, as they stood on the precipice of discovery, the question lingered: was the truth worth the cost? Or would uncovering it unleash something better left buried? In the heart of the cave, flashlights flickered against damp stone walls, illuminating paths that twisted and turned like veins in a body. Each step forward brought them closer to understanding, but also closer to danger. Somewhere ahead, the faint sound of dripping water echoed through the tunnels, rhythmic and haunting. "Follow the river," Maria had written. But rivers could lead anywhere to salvation or destruction. As the team pressed onward, hearts pounding in unison, the air thickened with dread. Whatever waited for them at the end of this journey, it was clear now that nothing would ever be the same again. The sound of dripping water grew louder as the team inched deeper into the cave, their flashlights casting shaky beams that danced across jagged walls. Each step felt heavier than the last, not just from exhaustion but from the weight of what they might find. Then suddenly, the narrow tunnel opened up into a cavern so vast it seemed to swallow the light whole. In the center stood something that made everyone freeze, a makeshift altar surrounded by debris and remnants of rituals long abandoned. On the altar lay two tarnished badges, unmistakably those of Laura Hayes and Maria Alvarez. But beside them was something far more unsettling, a crude map etched onto animal hide, marked with symbols matching those found earlier in the cave. It wasn't just a smuggling route, it was a blueprint for an entire underground network, spanning multiple states. As the team examined the map, Ethan's hands trembled. He recognized one of the locations marked on it, a cabin his mother used to visit when he was a child. "This can't be real," he whispered, clutching the edge of the altar. Rosa placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, her own face pale with shock. The discovery confirmed their worst fears. Laura and Maria hadn't been taken randomly. They had uncovered a conspiracy, far bigger than anyone imagined, one involving not only drug trafficking, but also human experimentation and illegal arms deals. The paramilitary group tied to the emblem carved into the walls. They weren't rogue criminals. They were mercenaries hired to protect secrets worth killing for. But before the team could process everything, a low rumble echoed through the cavern, growing louder until it became clear the cave was collapsing. Panic set in as rocks tumbled from above, forcing them to retreat hastily. As they scrambled back toward the entrance, they stumbled upon another chamber tucked away behind a hidden passage. Inside, they found evidence of survival, a small campsite with blankets, canned food, and handwritten notes pinned to the wall. Among them was a final journal entry from Maria, dated weeks after their last known communication. Her words sent chills down everyone's spines. Asterisk, if you're reading this, we didn't make it out. But we fought. We exposed them. Find Victor Kane. He's the key. Asterisk, the message reignited hope even as chaos erupted around them. With seconds to spare, the team emerged from the cave, gasping for air as sunlight blinded their eyes. Behind them, the cavern sealed itself shut, burying its secrets once more, but not before they'd retrieved the critical pieces of evidence needed to bring justice. Back at headquarters, the recovered documents sparked a nationwide manhunt for Victor Kane. What followed was a series of high-profile arrests, exposing a web of corruption that reached into some of the highest levels of government and law enforcement. The case rocked the nation, leading to sweeping reforms within the DEA and renewed calls for transparency. For Ethan and Rosa, closure came slowly but surely. Though Laura and Maria were never found alive, their bravery paved the way for accountability. Their sacrifice became a rallying cry for families of missing persons everywhere, inspiring movements aimed at ensuring no one else would vanish without answers. At a memorial service held months later, Ethan delivered a heartfelt speech honoring his mother and her partner. "They didn't just fight for justice, they gave us hope," he said, his voice steady despite the tears streaming down his face. "And because of them, we'll keep fighting too." In the end, the story of the two female DEA agents who vanished on duty became more than just a tragiate, was a testament to courage, resilience, and the unyielding pursuit of truth. The miners who first discovered the cave were hailed as heroes, their curiosity sparking a chain reaction that brought long-buried secrets to light. And while the Appalachian wilderness remained as mysterious as ever, it no longer felt like a place of fear. Instead, it stood as a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the world, light can break through if you're willing to search for it. As the credits rolled on the YouTube video documenting the harrowing tale, viewers were left reflecting on the power of determination and the importance of holding institutions accountable. For many, it was a call to action, to ask questions, demand answers, and never stop seeking justice, no matter how deep the shadows ran.